Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of WAVY Science Lab. I am meteorologist Jeremy Wheeler, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that I didn't know too much about, and I want to learn some about it. And so it's going to be about dams. Right, not the bad word, the kind that holds back the water. That's right. So we're going to learn about how they're built and what they're made of and what their purpose is. And there's a lot that goes into it. There really is. I am not an engineer, so I won't be going too much into the engineering, but we'll kind of get a simple breakdown of some of those, how they were built. All right, so let's go into dams. And so dams, they block water, they're strong, they create power. I mean, just, energy power. And just a very iconic thing to see a dam, especially when there's a lot of water flowing through it. This is one of the best examples, Hoover Dam in the United States. And yeah, I mean, it's just really cool to see. I wish I could go out there sometime. I still might. I've been out that way. I just never got to visit that particular one. But it'd be pretty neat to see, that's for sure. And that's a picture of a bunch of tourists on the top there, I think, taking pictures. So dams, they're structure built across a river stream to hold back the water. Very simple, right? We're all familiar with what it is, I think. Can be made of many different materials. That's true. All kinds of different things. Concrete, steel, some of the simpler ones, earth, rock, big range in sizes too. I mean, Hoover Dam is huge. They control floods. So a lot of times, you get those heavy rain upstream and you get the floods going downstream. Well, these can mitigate that and stop that from happening. They'll swell, but the water won't keep going downriver most of the time, unless it's bad, and unless there's a dam break, which we're going to talk about that as well. Hydroelectric power, that is how we get some power across parts of the United States, especially Hoover Dam. It's the hydroelectric, and we're going to explain what that is. But basically, from the water power and powering turbines. Hello. Sorry, I hit it by accident. Create reservoirs for recreation. Lake Mead is a good example. And so that's, a place where they can do some boating and fishing and things like that. Drinking water, believe it or not, it's kind of a reservoir for drinking water, and industry. A lot of industries use it. Some power plants may use it. They actually use that water and then for cooling towers, and then it goes back in. So about 50,000, wow, large dams are in use today. And that's a big number. I was very surprised at that. 50,000 dams. I think it's worldwide. The U.S. has the second largest number, 5,500, according to that site. And the largest number was China, 19,000 dams. And of course, the geography plays a big part of that too, whether it can support it. I mean, you got to have water, flowing down, an embankment or at least a river, and powerful stream to be able to block it and make use out of it. So, and some are not that bigger rivers, but this is one of the biggest. This is the biggest one in the world. This is the Three Gorges Dam in China. I believe this Yellow River, the Yangtze River, and so this thing is a monster. And so it took years to build. And just take a look at that. Can you imagine that? You see the cranes on it are similar to the cranes that we have here in Hampton Roads, isn't it? For loading ships and things. So I don't know exactly what point if that was. I don't think that was during the building process. I think that's pretty recent. I didn't check the date, but that is the Three Gorges Dam in China. And so the history of dams. Let's go back in time. Humans may have made small dams for thousands of years. Unrecorded. Ancient Mesopotamia was kind of the first sizable dams where they were starting to get recorded. The first dam recorded was the Jawa Dam, not from Star Wars. I don't believe there's any influence there, but hey, it wasn't an arid region, so maybe there was some influence for that name in Star Wars. I don't know. But anyway, first dam recorded 3000 BCE in present-day Jordan. And the ancient marvel used rock fill behind the dam to reinforce it. Was 15 feet tall, 80 foot long. So, 3,000 years before Jesus Christ. So that was, we're talking about 5,000 years ago. Amazing. And I heard that, at least I read, that it lasted all the way up until recent. And then there was some, they did something and damaged it by accident, or helped to cause that. But anyway, going back, still in time, 400 years after that, Jawa Dam in Egypt, there was the Sad el Kafara Dam, I believe I pronounced that right, Dam of the Pagans. That's what they called it. I don't know. I didn't look into the history of that. I thought I'll just leave that on the table. But Dam of the Pagans. Most likely supplied water to quarries, 36 foot tall, 348 foot long, made of masonry. So that with bricklayers, 100,000 tons of stone and gravel. That's impressive by itself because, I mean, think about how long ago that was. You don't have bulldozers back then. You've got people hauling these types of things using some very simple tools, but it failed shortly after being built. Wow, really? It did? So it had a poor design, I guess. So yeah, it broke almost right away. So then ancient Rome built a lot of dams. They wanted to really control that water, and they're familiar, arches and aqueducts. The Romans, just they're constructors of those things, and so they also created the Arch Dam. The Romans did. 60 CE, the Subiaco dams created a pleasure lake for Emperor Nero. Who was, I believe, that's the one who was playing the fiddle when Rome burned. But yeah, hey, he had a good time on the lake, I guess. Three gravity dams. That's what they were. Large was 165 foot tall. The Dark Ages, there was a time in Europe that, dam building halted because, there was the Dark Ages. Budgets were probably collapsed and, monarchies, things like that. And plus a lot of sick people. You had the plague. Anyway, 1850s then, years later, Professor William John McCorn Rankine had a better understanding of the Earth's stability and structural performance of it, and work was so innovative that improved the status for civil engineers. I had a couple of roommates that were civil engineers, and so it became a valid university subject at that point. Neat. So major advances in concrete dams from 1853 to 1910. The British and the French engineers did a great job at learning and becoming innovative. 1910, it was more of a 3D approach to the dams, the stresses and deflections on multiple points, and then model techniques also had improved by that point. All right, so I know we're doing a lot of history there. Let's go into modern. So the largest, most complex dams were built in the last 100 years, no doubt about that. Control flooding, create that hydroelectric power. That's something, hundreds of years ago they didn't do, but now we do. Of course, electricity had to be invented years ago. And Hoover Dam, modern marvel, really was, and it still is. So built in 1936, it was 276 foot tall, and it provides 4 billion kilowatt hours of hydroelectric power. That's a lot of power. Once the tallest dam in the world, but now I guess Switzerland's 820 foot tall Malvisen Dam. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but 1957 kind of took over. All right, so Hoover Dam was just another picture of it. There you go. We're going to talk more about it, though, coming up after the break, more about the dams. All right, welcome back, and it's Mr. Wheeler's alter ego talking today. We've seen all this history. Is this a history lesson or a science lesson? I mean, come on, Mr. Wheeler, what are we doing here? I want to see some stuff. All right, let's do that. Let's see some stuff. Let's talk more about it. So there it is, Hoover Dam. This is the one side of it, and we showed another picture there a little bit ago, but I've got a couple more. But let's go into some of the engineering parts. So it's hydroelectric dam. And so here's some of the parts. You got the turbine. So the water goes through those pipes around the turbine, and the water spins it, right? And then you got the shaft, and then that makes the rotor, I believe, go around the electromagnets, go around the copper coil, the stator in the middle, and then the exciter on top is a generator, and that's where you get the power. So that's from Hoover Dam itself. That's the generator. And that's how we get that power, baby. That's the way it's awesome. So yeah. Now here's another view. Now notice that it's an arch, right? It's an arch dam, I believe, and so it's got that concave pattern to it. So it's got that shape, right? The bowl shape on one side, and it holds it back. So there's different types of dams. There's a whole bunch of different types, but this is kind of some of the groups, the main groups. So number one's the gravity dam, made to hold back large volumes of water. There's a lot of concrete, masonry, and rubble, and it puts up that barrier. So my dad lives in Arkansas, northern Arkansas, and so I went to go visit him, and so I took a picture of this one. I believe this is a gravity dam, Bull Shoals Dam in Arkansas. The water level was down, so there wasn't a lot of water coming through the sluice gates there at the top, the little all the gates on the top. But there, you can see the water kind of flowing out of the bottom, and so that's that gets some power that way. And so that's the first type of dam right there. So here's another one. This is the arch dam. So again, we gave that example, Hoover Dam, and it's a curved dam, right? Good for narrow valleys, made of concrete, and then we saw a whole bunch of other things there. Of course, some steel and things like that, but concrete's the main example. So that's an arch dam, and that's the side view, by the way, in case you haven't figured that out already. So that's the side view. And there it is. Yeah. So that's an arch dam, and it's good for those narrow valleys. It can hold back that water. All right. Now the next one is a buttress dam. Triangular concrete walls transmit the water pressure from the deck slab to the foundation. You can see the slab there labeled, and then the buttress is like a pyramid almost. And it's not to scale. None of these are to scale. Hey, I try and do my best work, but I'm only so good. But I tried to, mimic it as best I could and create as best I could. So what happens is it pushes on that slab, right? The water presses on the slab, and then it forces that down and presses it down. And so the force it's translated. The force isn't going this way. It's pressed downward, kind of like in Tai Chi. When I do Tai Chi, we talk about rooting. And so someone presses on me, I'll use that force and send it into the ground instead of sending it backwards. You can actually press on somebody and hold them back using that type of force. So there you go. And then there's also, this one's pretty cool, the embankment dam. Successive layers of dirt, rock, the weight of the dam resists the force. Good and wide valleys with flat slopes. So some different examples, and I think there's more subgroups and there's a few more groups, but those are kind of the main groups that I saw and picked out, and hopefully I am accurate in their depiction. but yeah, and neat stuff. I mean, especially to see how much goes into these things and how much they've learned over the years too. I mean, they've evolved so much over time, the dams, and they've become so complicated. So sometimes, unfortunately, these dams will break, and one of the biggest ones, one of the worst disasters in the United States, a lot of younger folks don't know about, but when I was studying and teaching, I learned about Johnstown flood, 1889, one of the worst. May 31st, heavy flooding caused the dam to break. 20 million tons of water rushed down. This is Johnstown, Pennsylvania, 75-foot tall of water, moving about 40 miles per hour. Think about that force. And we're going to take a look at what that did. Unfortunately, 2,200 dead, 967 missing, $17 million in damage. I believe that was unadjusted, because nowadays I'm sure that'd be in the billions. And yeah, it's just sad and amazing. So at the time, the South Fork Dam was the largest earth dam in existence, about 2 miles long, 60 feet deep. Got taken over by a group, I believe it was a hunting club, I believe. And when they took it over, they did some things to it to make it a little bit weaker. So heavy rain already created flooding near the town, and then the dam was poorly constructed. There was no runoff. 5 iron pipes were removed, and they filled it in with rock and dirt in 1879. So then they'd gotten lucky up to the point that they hadn't had the major flood till 1889. I'm sure they had some heavy rain and things like that, but when it did come, it was bad. So, I mean, this is a bunch of the people out there. This is from National Weather Service site. And, look at all those folks, but look at, of course, behind them. That's the town. I mean, just the force of it, just throwing down, boulders down the hill, trees, entire trees, and then that would smash buildings, and that would run down the hill from the houses that on the way. And so, just wow. And then there's another view of the town, or what was left of it. And again, this is 1889 major flood, and that water rushed, through the buildings and smashed buildings. Some, still standing, but yeah, it was just it was a huge loss there. and a part of history. And I'll go back here for a second. Just look at the folks. I mean, people survived. I mean, obviously there were survivors, but just the death toll was so huge. So this is one of the worst disasters in American history. And then they learned from it. That they did learn things from it. So there was that. So what can cause dam failures? You can have the overtopping the water. It goes over the top literally and then comes down. That can happen. Blockages, poor design. You can get cracks to form. And that can, foundation effects. Maybe they didn't ground it enough. Maybe they didn't put enough material in there. Cracks due to natural settling. The earth settles and it changes the structure. The forces are different, and voila, things like that. And we talked about, the Johnstown flood. They'd done some things to it to weaken it even more, and it just wasn't a great design to begin with, according to the site that we looked at there. And this is from damsafety.org. So this current one. Piping, internal erosion due to seepage. Water will get in there, maybe in a crack, and then start eroding underneath it, and it just creates that, and then inadequate maintenance. All right, we're going to have more coming up after the break on some other things, so stay with us. All right, welcome back. And I forgot to mention I got a guest today. I should have brought that up right away. There's a guest. It's the Invisible Scientist. He's making an appearance today. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate being here. Okay, that's great. Yeah. So the Invisible Scientist, he'll be back from time to time. Yeah, we've got to get moving on and talk about dams some more. So yeah, hopefully you've learned something so far. We got more to come. So let's talk about the worst dam failure in history. 1975, Typhoon Nina, and it's in China. So maybe they pronounced it Nina. I don't know. Dumped 64 inches of rainfall over parts of China. 1975. Okay, and so the Banqiao Dam, built in 1952, had a massive failure designed for 20 inches in 3 days. That's a lot of rainfall. Well, they had more than that. I mean, 64 inches of rainfall over parts of China, and then that water flows. So unfortunately, killed tens of thousands, over 100,000 more died of starvation and disease. Wow. We're not going to dwell on that too much. I mean, that's just a shocker right there. So there weren't a lot of substantive safety laws before the 1970s. But, the Johnstown flood had happened before that. They did have some laws, but I think they started to add more meat to it once they had all these problems, because in the 1970s, there was a bunch of dam failures. 1972, Buffalo Creek, West Virginia, 125 lives lost, 500 homes. Rapid City, South Dakota, 1972, Teton, Idaho, 1976, and then another one, in Pennsylvania. So these dams, after that point, they started to make these laws get a little more meat in them, and I believe they started to kind of crack down on the dams. Because, I mean, it's hard to tell if a dam's going to have a problem until maybe you get that weather to come in and cause those problems. So, some of those might have been built 10, 20 years before that point. So are dams bad? Well, there's a big argument about that. Some say, oh, yeah, they're bad. And then some say, oh, no, they're great. So here's some reasons why they could be considered bad, besides the failures. They prevent fish migration up and down the streams. They can't go back upstream. Even the most powerful salmon, I don't think they can swim through those powerful pipelines. And then they deter the flow of nutrients. A lot of these nutrients, they flow downstream. They don't get to the ocean sometimes then, in some cases. So that's argument. And then they trap lots of sediment, and it builds up and builds up. I mean, actually, sometimes will create flooding in the plain that, where the water is, the lake perhaps. And sometimes that can cause flooding by itself. So those are some aspects, but we talked about at the beginning some of the good things that it does create hydroelectric power, and that's great. It's a very green energy, 27% of renewable energy in the U.S. In the world, I believe 5.7% in the U.S. Pardon me, and so water's often run through those large tubes that we talked about, and then it spins the turbines for the generators, and so that's how they get power. And so that is one big benefit, green energy. We're not using fossil fuels, and it's not free. I mean, you still have to pay for the infrastructure, and it's not 100% green, but but you know, it's just a lot better than using those fossil fuels. So again, that's one big aspect. And then, you know, sometimes flooding happens on those streams anyway. So you know, sometimes it will prevent that from happening even worse or further. So let's talk about a local dam. I was trying to find some around Virginia. There's a bunch in Virginia, but this is one that's kind of close to me where I live, Burnt Mills Reservoir in Suffolk. And yeah, look at that. That's so cool. I can zoom the lens in. By the way, I was not where I wasn't supposed to be. I was behind the fence line taking it. But yeah, just beautiful. I think this is, it says an earthen dam, but I think it was also considered a diversion dam. And so there you go. And yeah, you can see the water flowing on the lower side there. Very pretty. So western branch of the Nansemond River, mainly for water supply. Norfolk, I believe, took it over. Even that's what the sign says there. Also used for recreation. I saw some folks going to go out fishing there. An earthen dam, but you know, again, I believe it's gravity, but is it a diversion dam as well? Maybe it's both. Hard to say. And then 27 feet tall, 2,500 feet long. It didn't look that way, but I guess when you look at the entirety of the dam. And there's the lake. This is a Burnt Mills Lake in Suffolk. Beautiful. And there's a little boat launch right there. Went down there on a beautiful day, and it was, you know, bright sunshine. It was gorgeous. It had rained a little bit. And so there you go. And here's another view. Again, I was on the good side of the fence when I took this video, but I just wanted to show how beautiful it is. That's around Everts. So Burnt Mills Reservoir, and that is that's the dam right there. And I'll run it again here for a second, just so you can kind of take it in. Just it's gorgeous. It's so serene to see that water coming over the dam, and on several of them. But there's a lot of dams over in Western Virginia where you've got the higher elevations and the water coming down the mountains, things like that. So that's where you probably have some bigger, you know, more impressive ones. But this one, I mean, is just beautiful. So there you go. Let's take a look at one more thing, and that's dams in nature. Beaver dams, that's right. Created by the animals. They also make dams. They chop the trees down with their teeth, right? Or brush, maybe use some brush, and then they use mud and things to pack it together and make a dam. Provides protection from predators for them. Creates a habitat for fish, amphibians, ducks. They swim in there. Maybe it's tough for some of them to get around in the stream, powerful stream, so it kind of slows that down a little bit. Food storage for them, especially in the winter, that's important because, you know, it gets where the water doesn't freeze down deep, and improves water quality too. You know, kind of a filtration type thing. So that's right. Even in nature, the beavers can make those and make it just, you know, add a little extra scenery when you're out walking and seeing that long river. You know, you see a beaver dam, it's like, wow, that's so neat for them to be able to do that and to be able to think to do that and construct it. You know, I mean, that's just, there's an intelligence there, a big intelligence there. So there you go. All right, so we saw some really cool stuff today, and I guarantee you, you know, it's really pretty. But seeing this stuff in person is really something as well. Maybe I'll make it out to that Hoover Dam and go check that out. I won't make it to Three Gorges probably, but there's dams all over the country, and you can go check them out. Just do a search and go find them, especially the ones in West Virginia. Maybe I will travel and go see some of those. But this is one of the closest ones we have. So, and I believe there's another one. I just couldn't find out where it was around here, but another one. But so anyway, we're going to finish off with the environmental tip of the day. If there's something you can't use, can't recycle it, then donate it. Clothes, furniture, tools, etc. Thrift resale is a big industry, and it's just a great way to keep that stuff out of landfills. All right, hope you learned something today, everybody. Have a good day, and you know, again, get out there and just go for a walk in nature and see some of this stuff. Maybe you'll find a beaver dam. All right, have a good day.